All right, welcome back as we were rudely interrupted. I think, Will, you had something to say about Juju Smith-Schuster and the fact that he's in this debate about whether or not he's spending too much time doing other things other than football.
I mean, look, I do think that these guys are allowed to be 22 years old. I do think that. I mean, I think that he is a guy, I don't see him doing anything off the field that is detrimental to his performance on the field. I don't think if he's struggling, the reason he didn't catch the ball today isn't because he wasn't in State College or wasn't because he's videotaping himself, giving his cars to his best friends or going, as Colin mentioned, doing charity stuff. I mean, I do think he's building a brand, and I do think sometimes it can be a bit much, but he's hardly the only 22-year-old that's doing that.
Well, what brand is he building? Well, what brand is he building if it doesn't have to do with playing well?
He just got paid $100,000 or whatever to play video games. He's obviously doing it pretty successfully.
Okay, it's lit, Tim. It's lit. It's Christmas time.
You don't have to like it. Here's the thing. You don't have to like it. Like, I'm 43 years old. I don't know how old you guys are. You don't have to like it. But it seems like a lot of the core audience around his age does. And I think that's who he's speaking to. Not people like us. I mean, younger people.
Look, he's been doing that since he got here. By the way, he's been doing that since he got here.
Okay, so
and he was a really good player last year doing this stuff too. So this is not the problem.
The injury has a lot to do with what's happening, and he hasn't been out there, and it's got to be frustrating. So all you do is see him off the field, not on the field.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is why when anybody tries to criticize him for what he does on the field, it turns into you're being a hater and look at all the fun stuff that he does.
Consolidate it to his performance on the field, because I think this is probably what Will is saying. I don't know, nor does anyone, how much his off the field and what he does has anything to do with what happens with 60 minutes on the clock when you play a football game. I just don't think there's a correlation.
I agree with that. Anyway, I want to move along. And Juju Smith-Schuster's like James Conner in the final year coming up, and you wonder about his value moving forward. I want to talk about the coaching staff because they have been a lot of accolades about how they've handled the situation. I think rightfully so. They went 7 out of 8 weeks with wins despite virtually no offense. And yet there are some people who now believe if they end with 3 straight losses and don't make the playoffs, which would be 3 years in a row, that there could be some coaching casualties. So, Tim, let's start with you on that. Will there be? Should there be?
No, I mean, I don't think there will be because I think the fail-safe excuse for the offense, who are you going to fire on the defense after the way the defense has performed for the most part this year? I think the fallback is on the offense. Well, Ben isn't there, and if Ben's there, everything's better. I don't know how that affects the offensive line. This is the first year for Sean Surratt. I don't think you want to gas him after just 1 year. But, I mean, you do have to think maybe if Mike Munchak is there, does he fix some of the issues that might have been going on with some of the offensive linemen? I think he does because he was great at it. So.
I agree with Tim, everything that he said. I don't think anybody should be fired, but I think someone should be hired. There should be a quarterback's coach. There should be a go-between between the offensive coordinator, who is Ben Roethlisberger of this football team, and a quarterback in case someone else needs to play, not named Ben Roethlisberger, or even for the further development in years to come for somebody like Mason Rudolph. Coach Randy, it's proven and it's glaringly obvious, he can coach Ben and no one else. That being said, why there's not a quarterback's coach for this football team is ludicrous.
Well, technically, Matt Sims has become sort of that guy. I mean, he's a volunteer assistant. He's an assistant they brought on, and then when Randy went to become the offensive coordinator, technically Matt is the quarterback's coach. That being said, look, I'm not thrilled with – I love Danny Smith. I'm not thrilled with the penalties that continually seem to pop up in the return game. The fact that they have been able to get nothing going for years on end now. Like Deontay Johnson looks like he might be a pretty good punt returner at this level. But, I mean, just the mistakes after mistakes. I mean, how many times do you have to see an illegal block or a hold on a kick? Like, that's the kind of stuff I'd want to – but, look, the coaching staff, I'm sorry.
Offsides and a punt?
I'm sorry, the coaching staff at large. Let's remember, in 4 of their wins this year, they've had a defensive or a special teams touchdown, and all those were one-score games. Okay, so I think people got lulled into like, oh my God, this is like the greatest thing ever, what they're doing. It was a mirage. I'm sorry. The defense is still really good.
Had a turnover in 6 weeks. So, I mean, it shows you how fickle those turnovers can be.
I think the one game, that play against the Colts, if he doesn't pick off Brian Hoyer and run it back, these guys might be like 5-10 right now.
That's
so, I mean,
close.
it's a very thin. So let's just the criticism of the coaching staff needs to be put to sleep. I'm sorry.
All right, now it's time to go around the horn for this week's Smooth Moves, brought to you by Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops you're going to find anywhere. That would be Armina Stone. So Smooth Moves, top to bottom here, guys. I want your smoothest move of the week. Start with you, Colin.
All right. Well, unfortunately, it won't be the, 76 Indiana team, but smooth move to the Duquesne Dukes. They lost to UAB, so they're 10-1 now, but they shot out of the gate 10-0. Good job by Keith Dambrot and those guys who don't have a home court. Tim knows this all too well. They don't have a place to play, and they won 10 games to start the year. Great job by the Dukes. Put up your Dukes.
I'll give a shout out to the fans that came out to support the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championships here in Pittsburgh. 15,000 plus on both the semifinals and finals. I know Pittsburgh is trying to pitch itself as a destination for these kinds of events. Very well done this weekend, and probably a good sign of things to come.
Well, I guess I got to give my smooth move to somebody I ripped all week on the radio and in print. He actually played great, and that was Sam Ficken, the Penn State kicker, who made all 3 of his kicks after missing a kick in 6 of the last 7 games. Banged a career-long 54-yarder. Not that Boswell did anything wrong, but I thought the Steelers had a significant advantage in the kicking game, and boy, did he even that out, because they didn't score a bunch either, and they needed all those field goals to count for the Jets.
Yeah, and the Steelers went backwards when they were in field goal range a couple of times, which proved to be costly. All right, those are the Armina Stone Smooth Moves, brought to you by Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops you're going to find anywhere. Check them out at Armina Stone. When we come back, we'll talk about a guy who's been a wall in net, and that would be Tristan Jarry and what it means for Matt Murray. That's next.